I'm Matt Wright, CEO of the Australian Federation of Disability Organisations. We are an organisation that is 100% staffed and governed by people with disability and their families. We operate in the same way that any other workplace would. However, our staff need support if someone needs to be guided to a cab, in the case of a person with a vision impairment, or in my own situation, that I use a broad range of electronic equipment to hear. I firstly want to commend the collaborative panel structure set up by state trustees. I've gained considerably from learning from my fellow organisations and also exploring the overarching theme of how to support community services that have a conscience and a heart and minimise their greatest area of need, which is systems and structure. Our project is about sharing best practice models of consumer-led delivery in the context of the National Disability Insurance Scheme, which was set up on the principle of putting resources into the hands of people with disability to choose the best service to meet our needs. If you just imagine that your experience as a customer didn't consist of shopping on the internet or elsewhere for things to meet your need, but instead consisted of a Groundhog Day experience of being in a 42-bed accommodation facility and walking 20 metres to a day service where you were in a room with the same people that you shared your accommodation with. Yes, your whole life exists between those 20 metres. This was my experience of working at the Oakley Centre for 5 years, and there are many centres like it across the country. I've worked at a number of other service providers, and this is by no means unique or unusual. The move from institutionalised models where people with disability are excluded from the community to a model of choice is a critical part of the NDIS. However, change is hard, and in many cases, old institutionalised models are just being rebranded. The customer service model that we in regular society all operate under, that we have the best possible information through websites and talking with friends about how to meet our own needs, and then through our income we make choices. If there is a big enough market, the service offerings will be abundant and varied. Theoretically, businesses lacking in innovation will not last. Choice recognises that there are countless different possibilities for each person because everybody is different. Even prior to the NDIS, there are really good service providers who, within the constraints of wafer-thin budgets, have been focused on providing choice and inclusion into the community for some time. Our project seeks to capture what is it that they've been doing and how. From preliminary conversations, these service providers did something different that put people with disability at the heart of their service. One sold off the institutionalised settings and said that while we have the buildings, the big buses, the infrastructure, we will never have community inclusive services that we want. Another one said we will not service more than 100 people with disability because if we don't know the needs of the people in our service intimately, then we will lose what we've set out to achieve. The characteristics of these services are they look at the interests and goals of a person and approach their aspirations in a validating and open manner. One of the service providers we've identified who predominantly work with people with intellectual disability used the metaphor of 100 cups of tea, that it takes the equivalent time of 100 cups of tea to really get to know, understand and build a relationship with any person, including a person with a disability. They take the approach that's about living an ordinary life and being a valued member of the community, rather than being a recipient of a day program. It's about building natural, meaningful connections in the community, rather than delivering disability-centric support. It's not normal just to have one friendship, especially if that friendship is just a worker. They have service structure that is not dependent on staff, so that people with disability can depend on the service no matter who works there. And most importantly, they admit that they are not perfect and have a way to go. They view their service as a journey. They have high expectations for people with disability and their staff. They tap into existing community programs and, where possible, try to gain open employment. Finally, they are small in size and able to be personalised. There is nothing on the shelf, there is no menu of services. It is a fit and measure approach to understand a person in their totality. This is what consumer-directed care means to me. No longer will it be about how many of us can fit in a building, because the state system is desperate. No longer should we be viewed as objects of economies of scale. We will not be grouped together homogenously as tourists to go bowling or do abadiscos. The litmus test that a service provider needs to ask themselves honestly is, if I was a person with a disability, would I want the service that I'm currently offering? In most cases, the honest answer is no. Instead, APTO will push the NDIS to reward services that are innovative and bold. The NDIS was never just a straight service expansion of old models. It is a vision that we, people with disability, should have the same right to be a customer like anyone else in society, free of prejudice and low expectations. In a society where consumers have the power to direct their own lives, we, people with disability, are looking forward to finally taking charge of ours. Thank you.